This guy, Sam Bankman-Fried and BTX and FTTs and all this crypto stuff. And I mean, our guest today is Mark Moss, a guy who likes to take care of himself. Good looks are his character. And I don't know how you put enough journalism together to find out as much as you did about this guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, and all the characters. But let's start with, why did people like, what's his name, Jim Cramer of CNBC, didn't he call Sam Bankman-Fried the Warren Buffett of crypto or something like? What are some of those things you found out what they were calling this guy?
Yeah. So first of all, I've been reporting on the cryptocurrency space since 2016. So I've been kind of deep into it, and I have actually some pretty close ties and connections to the inner workings of Sam Bankman-Fried back since 2017. So I kind of have been familiar, but yes, it's been a lot of research. But to the point, Jim Cramer called him the next JP Morgan.
Oh, Jesus.
Because he didn't create steel or oil or banking, right? He just created a bunch of crypto fraud tokens out of thin air. But Jim Cramer called him the next JP Morgan.
So how come Cramer is wrong all the time? I mean, how can he still be on CNBC? Is it because Sam Bankman-Fried pays so much money?
Well, we certainly know that, and I know it's something that you've talked about forever, is that, most financial advisors are just sales reps. They try to sell the products of their company. And so these people have to bow down to the advertisers. And FTX, SBF, we call him Sam Bankman-Fried, we call him SBF for short. But his company, FTX, has spent over $200 million advertising. They're the largest advertiser across sports and media, the Super Bowl, et cetera. And so, of course, they probably have to talk pretty favorably about him. As to why Jim Cramer is wrong so much, the funny thing is there's actually two different ETFs now that you can buy that actually counter trade Jim Cramer. He fabulously got Facebook Meta wrong. He was crying on air about that, misleading so many people, and now of course he was wrong about FTX as well.
But it wasn't there Elizabeth Holmes, and then there was what was that other one that he was on it, run by another woman?
Yeah, Thanos, right? Elizabeth Holmes and Thanos.
And there was another one just recently too. He just raved about him, and they went belly up too.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one that is.
Well, this is because I'm a U.S. Marine, and our thinking doesn't go above our zipper level. We don't have much higher thought. And then when I found out they're all having group sex, I'm going, oh my God. You couldn't pay me to jump into that group sex. I mean, God almighty. It can't get much worse. And then you have this guy Fetterman wins the Senate against Dr. Oz, who's a good-looking guy. I mean, America is turning into central casting for the Addams family.
Yeah.
And then in Arizona, they can't even count the votes. I'm like, oh my God. And then this guy, I'm not really Republican or Democrat. It's your choice. You can vote if you want to. Biden wins the election sitting in his basement, and Trump is on the road, millions of people cheering him on, and Biden sits in his basement while his son Hunter is cutting deals in China, taking nude pictures with him with hookers. I'm going, what has happened to America? Holy mackerel. And now SBF, he just was the frosting. I mean, he and his goofy-looking girlfriend and they're having group sex. I'm going, you got to be kidding me. If I had $1 billion, I'd hire something better looking than that. You know what I mean? I'm not into that stuff, but my God, it's gotten strange looking.
Well, and it's certainly drug fueled for sure, right? Caroline, the CEO of Alameda, which is his girlfriend, had talked about their amphetamine use and how being so strung out on amphetamines makes it very hard to deal with normal people or sober people. And so they were strung out on drugs. They were, dealing with billions of dollars. Publicly, he said that he was doing this all for the good of humanity. He was donating 100% of his money. He drove a Toyota Corolla, and it was all lies. He lived in like a $30 million mansion in the Bahamas. Had another big house in New York. They were spending money like it was going out of style. So it was all a big lie, all a big charade.
It sounds like Black Lives Matter. They own the biggest houses in Topanga Canyon and Beverly Hills and all that stuff, and they help the poor blacks. I'm going, what has happened to our country? I'm not against black people. I'm against fraud and lies.
Yeah.
But they get away with it. We can't even count votes here in Arizona.
Yeah,
We cannot
it's
even.
insane.
And the Secretary of State, who was in charge of the last election, Katie Hobbs, she's going to verify her own election now. I mean, give me a break. What has happened, Mark?
After she sent out all those ballots that didn't have her opponent's name on them.
Oh, God. Oh, God. How is this happening?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into what you found out about my buddy, Sam Bankman-Fried, and his girlfriend of Alameda or whatever they are. And what were they up to?
So I think it's really important from people, because I've made a couple of posts on Twitter lately and people don't understand where I'm coming from because they don't understand how this fraud actually works. So I think it's important to start there. So this cryptocurrency boom has been brought on by greedy speculators. And so what happens? So basically, Sam Bankman-Fried has two companies, one called FTX, which is the exchange where you can buy and sell them all. And he has another company called Alameda. And Alameda is something called a market maker, or you could call them a faker or a manipulator. So market makers trade on thinly traded volume to artificially create a price. So what happens is, and Sam Bankman-Fried actually gave an interview, and it's on Bloomberg. It was in April of this year. And he breaks all this down. Let's say that you create this box. It's just a box. You say it's going to change the world, but all is it a box? And then you put tokens in and take tokens out. And so then this market maker starts trading this volume on very, very thin liquidity to artificially create a market cap. So they take 100,000 tokens, they take 2% of them, and they quickly trade them, wash trade them back and forth between themselves to then say these tokens are worth $2, $5, $100. And then you say, well, $100 token times the total market cap gives it $1 billion. So they create $1 billion of potential value out of thin air. And then what happens, and he describes it in this interview, is then because they've made this market and they've made this token look like it's growing in value and it's all worth all this money, then they list it on FTX, and all these people want to start trading it because they perceive it as having value, the value they gave it artificially. And so then everyone starts trading it, and then FTX makes all the money off these unsuspecting people trading a bunch of worthless garbage.
And isn't FTX like what I call the COMEX? All it is a platform.
Yeah, it's like an E-Trade, or something like that, right?
And, I've been tweeting that I'm still bullish on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But don't consider silver and the silver ETF the same thing.
That's exactly right.
And Bitcoin is not the same as Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, so that's the first part. And I think it's important to understand. And as I said, I have firsthand knowledge of this. So one of my really good friends, someone I used to work with, actually launched a token with Sam Bankman-Fried in Alameda last year. And basically within 2 months, hired a couple developers. Alameda gave him $12 million for this token that he made out of thin air at about a 3 cents valuation. And they flipped him to their VC friends at 9 cents, 12 cents. And then VC dumped him on retail at 26 cents. So venture capitalists love this because they, typically venture capitalists would put money in and they wouldn't get money back out for 7 to 10 years. Like if they invested into Uber, for example, real money, a real company, 7 to 10 years with no liquidity. In this crypto market, they could put money in and instantly within 90 days or 180 days get a 10x or 20x return on their money. So it's brought hundreds of millions of dollars from venture capitalists, which then brings hundreds of millions of dollars into advertising and media. And so this whole crypto thing has been built up on fake pump and dump, right? They're creating Fugazi, they're creating vaporware, and the VC loves it because they can 10x or 20x their money instantly. And then they use the media to build it up. And so everybody thinks they're like life-changing technology, but the reality is 99% of it is all nothing.
So I'll go back to my question again. Why are they so strange looking? I mean, I hate to say, I can't get past it. I mean,
well, look at the Ponzi's, or I'm sorry, the Patsies throughout history, like the Lee Harvey Oswalds. Aren't they always a little bit strange looking?
Yeah, they're strange looking, but they're now our leaders, political leaders. I mean, Jesus. Anyway, so when I say that it's not Bitcoin, it's FTX was the problem.
Right.
What else did you find out? Because I'm puzzled. I mean, how can anybody be that stupid?
Yeah.
I just cannot believe that.
Well, greed, right? Unfortunately, people, they get blinded by greed, and they want that, and they see all this money being made in this gambling space or this lottery space, and so they all want to jump in. But just because Sam Bankman-Fried did obvious fraud, obvious scam, obvious lies, now it's going into bankruptcy court. They have the same bankruptcy attorney as did the Enron case, which of course Enron was like the largest scandal ever. He said today that he believes this is the worst he's ever seen in his entire career.
Who, the Enron guy?
Yeah, the Enron attorney who's working on the FTX bankruptcy said this is the worst, most fraudulent case he's ever seen. So, for example, FTX was bringing in all this money through Alameda and through FTX exchange. I'm talking, hundreds of billions of dollars. They had no ledger or accounting of where the money came from. Everything was commingled in one account. Customer funds, investor funds, remittances, payment, everything was commingled in one single account, and they had no accounting or ledger to even decide who was owed what. They had no list of employees. There was no human resources, no list of employees. So they don't even know if these employees are real or not, or if they're fraudulent. All expenses were done over like instant messenger Slack, and they would approve invoices with just an emoji, like happy face, yes, we approve it. Like no kidding. I mean, it was this bad. And then they use Signal, which is a very private app for communications. And they use Signal to hide most of their communication so that no regulators would even see what they were doing. I mean, this was a fraudulent organization from the very beginning. And so, you can't blame Bitcoin or crypto for this. This is an operator who did something criminal.
That's like blaming the silver ETF.
Right.
And I have a lot of silver, a lot of gold, but I don't have anything in ETFs.
And you don't blame silver for that,
No.
right? It's the ETF operator. And then what they did, and this is where it starts to look pretty bad for the Democratic Party or the powers that be, however you want to frame that up. But it looks like what they were doing, FTX, and why Jim Cramer called him the JP Morgan, is they went after and took down the largest cryptocurrency company. So they were responsible for the Terra Luna takedown, which was $60 billion that got eviscerated in May of this year.
FTX did that?
FTX did that. Then they went and took down Celsius. So Celsius was a really large, we call it a CFI, centralized finance exchange. They took them down. And this took out, we're talking about tens of thousands or millions of people who lost their life savings. They went and took them down. All right. Then they took down BlockFi. And what they were doing is they went to BlockFi. So BlockFi is a place where people would send their cryptocurrency in exchange for loans or in exchange for yield back. And they took them down. And then they said, hey, here's what we're going to do, BlockFi. We're going to bail you out, but we're not actually going to give you any money. What we're going to do is we're going to guarantee your customer deposits, but you have to give us all your money. You have to park your money with us. So they were pretending to bail people out, but stealing it. And that's why Cramer called them the JP Morgan, because they're supposedly bailing these companies out.
So Mark, once again, they're pretty smart dudes, but they're criminals.
Criminals.
They're very smart. I can't handle it. My brain doesn't think that way. I just couldn't do that. But anyway, so when we come back, I want to go into how come they donated so much to the criminal Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Like I said, how did this guy Fetterman, another family from Central Casting in Hollywood, and then how come Arizona, we can't even count our votes here. How much of that was paid for by, Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX and all that? How deep did this criminal operation go into U.S. politics?